Shagufta, I want to thank you again for joining us and giving us the time for our podcast, Sahtime Show. And I'm sure our audience are appreciating very much your thoughts. So let's talk today about your core specialty in coaching and specifically in parenting.
Yes, thank you, Laila. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me again. This is the second time in conversation with you.
Pleasure.
Absolutely a pleasure. Love being here. And yes, like you just mentioned, coaching is what I love to do. It's my passion. I really enjoy that. And specifically with parenting. So, when I say parenting, it's about not just any kind of parenting, it's also parenting with a purpose, right? And if one were to ask Laila, what is the toughest and the most daunting job in the world today? The answer would be a hands down unanimous one, that of being a parent, all right? It is a tough job because we are not just raising an individual, you're raising a whole future. You're raising the future of the city, the country that you're living in. But the good thing is that you're not alone because every parent feels the pressure, and every parent internally has got this fear and this nagging worry that are they doing the right thing for their child? So we as parents, we tend to protect our children against the difficulties of life. We try to shield them against the hardships and the challenges that they would be facing. But the question to every parent here is, should we shield them from the difficulties and try to be the emotional cushion in their lives, or do we prepare them for it? And this is what I call as purposeful parenting. So it's just not any parenting, it's parenting with a purpose. So yeah.
So, everything in life has a purpose,
True.
but each age has a different behavior. Do you like handle your coaching programs with parenting across all ages, or you are like you start with young age to adolescence? The adolescence is a very, very difficult period of time.
Precisely, Laila. That's a very, very good question that you've asked me. Because, yes, parenting is different at different ages. So you have your children. So until the age of 12, they would be considered as children, wherein the parents become the primary influencers and they are the primary caretakers of a child and also the primary influencers. So up until the age of 12 years, a child is a lot under the influence of the parent. Then comes that age of 12, 13, 14, where they are becoming teenagers, adolescents, like you said. And that's where parents start now having different kind of challenges. It's not the same challenges that they faced earlier with the children. Now the challenges are different because now what is happening is the children, once they're coming to the teenage years, they are no longer a child. They are now becoming individuals in their own right. They start having their own decisions making abilities, their own opinions about a lot of things. And now they're moving towards adult stage, adulthood. So the problems that parents face with adolescents is quite different from the challenges that parents face with very young kids. And yes, I do tackle it differently, and I work with both kind of parents who have small kids also, and parents who have teenagers as well. And with the younger ones, what we do is something called as the sleep talk process, which is a beautiful process. I'll explain more about it. And with parents who've got these teenagers between the age of like say 12, 13 to about 18 years of age, that's where I focus more on the purposeful parenting. It's more about the parent coaching rather over there. What is it that how they do they need to be with their children, around their children, which are no longer children, but now, teenagers turning into adults. So there are different ways of tackling different age groups. Yes, definitely. So let me tell you about the sleep talk process first, which is more targeted for kids between the ages of 0 to 13 years. So we call it like pregnancy to puberty, roughly around 12, 13 years. And this is a beautiful, beautiful solution for parents to deal with the behavioral issues that they are facing with their children, developmental issues, a host of problems that parents face in the initial years. Now, have a lot of parents coming to me with the problems of, say, fears, temper tantrums, eating habits, bedwetting, speech delays, selective mutism, or there are also children who are on the autism spectrum disorder. They have ADHD, they have OCDs, they have sibling rivalry, and there's a lot of sibling rivalry as well. So if there are more than one child in the family, and sometimes there's a lot of sibling rivalry that's happening. There's separation anxiety, there's extreme anxiety sometimes, bullying that's happening in school. A lot of times that also can be an issue, some traumas that have happened. So there are a lot of issues that are happening in the initial years of a child's life, because that we know is the foundational period for a child. The initial years are called the foundational years, and a lot of time it is affected by the environment. And parents play a very, very important role here, because they become, like I said, the primary influencers and the primary caretakers in a child's life. So it's very important to program them the right way, and the sleep talk really helps with this. So to explain it better in a more layman term, let me give you a comparison here, Laila. So we've all used computers, right? We've used computers. We know that there are two major components to a computer. One is the hardware that we see. So no matter what laptop you're using, it may be an Apple, it may be a Dell, it may be a Lenovo. No matter what the configuration you have, it may be a simple basic laptop, or it may be a laptop which has a high-end configuration. But no matter what your laptop is, one part is the hardware. And what really runs the computer, or what really makes the computer function, is the software that we feed it, right? And again, these softwares is not a one type. We have different types of softwares which are handling different functions. So if you use an Excel, you use it for a different reason. If you want a designing software, you would probably use a design software like an Adobe or something like that. To do an accounting, you have something called as the Tally software. So you have different softwares who have different functions. And then again, if at all there is any bug or any virus with the software, you will still not get the results that you want. So you have the hardware, you have the software that is installed inside the hardware. And still, if at all there is a malfunction, you will still not get the results that you're seeking. So now, comparing it to us, to us humans, the body that you see is the hardware that we have. All right. And then what is really running us is our software. So I have a question for you, Laila. Let me ask you, what do you think our software is?
This is a very complicated question. Well, it's a combination, I think, isn't it?
So a lot of people think that it is the brain. Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of people think it is the brain that is running us. But no,
it's not like the heart and the gut.
No,
I think there is
it is not. That's all your hardware. So your entire body is your hardware. Okay, is the machine. Even your brain. Okay, so the brain can be compared to the CPU or the motherboard in a computer, which is like the central processing unit, which is giving out functions to the different parts. But then again, it is part of the hardware. All right. And that is again comparable to the brain that we have, which is just another organ, just another part of the hardware, which is giving instructions to different parts of the bodies. But that is not your software. That is still your hardware. Because, if you go back into the womb and you see it, the neural cells only start developing from the third or fourth week of pregnancy. The first neural cell is developed around the third or fourth week. And we all begin life, we know, as a single cell that starts with conception. So we start life as a single cell, and these cells then go on multiplying, dividing, and then they go to form clusters to form different organs and things like that. And there is no brain. The first brain cell appears third or fourth week of pregnancy. So what is it then that is controlling everything? Okay, so this is the software. The software that we have is what we call as the mind. So the minute you come into existence, which is with conception, that's where your software comes into mind. And these software is also different, of different levels. Like how you have different softwares in your computer which handle different functions. The same way with us, you have the hardware, which is the entire body, and then you have a software which is running you, which we call as the mind. And the mind, has got different levels. So you have the unconscious mind, which takes care of the body function and immune system. And then you have the subconscious mind. We have all heard about the subconscious mind, which takes care of the emotions and the feelings and the beliefs. So all your emotions and behaviors are coming from this part or this level of the software. And then you have something called as the conscious mind, all right, which is concerned with your IQ, which is your thinking mind, your analytical mind, your reasoning mind. This is where your willpower resides. Your decision making comes from this part of the software. So these are the different levels of software that we have. And the first one that comes into existence is the unconscious, which is taking care of your body functions, your immune system. Then you have your subconscious, which is concerned with your beliefs and behaviors, all your fears, your anxieties, your belief systems. Everything is taken care of by this. And this is the major part of your software. So while the unconscious is roughly about 30 to 40%, the subconscious is 50 to 60% of your total mind capacity. And the conscious, which is concerned with the academics, which we call as the IQ or the intelligence quotient, is just 10% of your total mind capacity. So the major part of it is 50 to 60%. And that
My
starts,
God,
yeah,
this is very important. Yeah.
yeah. And that starts from the fourth or the fifth month of pregnancy, when you're still in utero. So that's where your subconscious mind comes into existence. And this can be compared, the subconscious can be compared to like, your memory of the computer, your hard disk, or the memory bank that you have. So everything that has ever happened to you, and the first sense that develops for a child in utero is the sense of hearing. So a child begins to hear when he's in the mother's womb. He's aware of what the mother is saying. He's aware of whatever is happening in the environment. The child is also aware of the mother's emotions. And every part of it gets recorded into the subconscious mind. And then when the child is born, again, the interactions with the world around starts. And all of it gets started recording in the subconscious mind. And this is where your programming, your major programming and coding is coming from. So by the time the child is like 7, 8 years, most of the programming or coding has happened. It continues a little bit more till the child is like a teenager, till the age of 12 or 13. And by the time you become an adult, you're completely programmed and completely coded. And thereafter, you're just on autopilot. You think you're doing things consciously, but no, you are actually being run by your subconscious programming. So what the sleep talk really does is it helps the parents to program or code the children in the right way. So if there are any fears, any anxieties, any traumas, it will clear the system. So what do you do when you have a virus attack in your computer? You would reboot the system. You would install a new software, right? So this is exactly what the sleep talk does. Is if there is something which is not giving you good results that you see in your child, and it could be, again, it could be a speech delay, it could be fears, anxieties, traumas, anything for that matter. What the sleep talk does is it kind of clears the system of all of this, the cause of what is causing it, and it kind of installs or reboots the system and conditions the mind of the child in the right way. It also installs a firewall, which is like an antivirus software, so that the child is better able to deal with whatever negative influences that it is encountering in its life. So this is what the sleep talk does. And it just takes, it's a very simple, it's not a therapy. So it's not basically a therapy, it's called a process, because it is divided into phases. So there's a phase 1, there's a phase 2, and there's a phase 3. And this is done by the parents themselves. So there is no third person working with the child. It's the parent who's working with the child. So the response of the child is very fast, very quick, because like I said, in the initial years, from 0 to the age of 12, when they're still children, the parent are the major influencers in a child life. So whatever is being done by the parent, whatever is being said by the parent, is very readily accepted by the mind of the child. So it's done in the comfort of your home. It just takes 2 minutes a day to do it. It's not even a lengthy process. You do it when the child is asleep. So there's no resistance from the child at all. And by doing this, the parent child bond also becomes very, very strong. And I've also seen, instances where the relationship between other members of the family members also becomes very strong with doing this. So, Sleep Talk process is a very safe, very ethical process, which is going on for the last 40 years, very successfully with parents across the world, helping children dealing with different issues, even severe issues like autism or ADD, ADHD, all these kind of severe challenges that a child faces are also kind of helped and supported by the Sleep Talk in a very, very positive way. So Sleep Talk is one process which I definitely recommend for parents with kids between the age of 0 to 13 years, Laila. And when it comes to,
Gupta,
yes,
may I interrupt you because I want to go back to the phase of 0.
yeah,
Is there any relation between, let's say, the motherboard and the the software or the hardware? Like if the mother is suffering while she's, while she is pregnant, if
yes,
she is suffering, let's say, trauma
yes,
or mental sickness or maybe sadness, anything,
yeah,
is there any relation
yes,
with you
yes,
think like
Laila,
if she is depressed, the baby will
yes.
face any?
Yes, thank you for this question. So it's very relevant, and yes, the mother's emotions does affect the child later on. So I also work with individuals, right? So it's not only parents that I work with. Sometimes I even work in with individuals as well, and sometimes they have these limitations or certain behaviors that are becoming roadblocks in their life. And when we work on them and we kind of do a little bit of regression to see where that is coming from, we've even regressed back to the womb. We've gone back to see where this actual problem is coming from, because it always is nice to take care of the cause, right? To remove it from root. It's not only taking care of the symptoms, but also removing the problem from the root. So sometimes when you regress back and you go to the, it goes back even to the womb, where the individual has a sense of this is coming from my mother. Because I remember I just mentioned some time back that the subconscious comes into existence in the fifth month of pregnancy, and it is the memory bank. It records everything. Nothing is ever deleted. You may forget it, you may not be aware of it, but the subconscious is recorded everything right from the time that you were in your mother's womb. So if there's any emotion, any trauma that the mother is going through, that also is recorded into the child's subconscious mind, which can become a part of their programming and coding later on. So sometimes, a person may not understand where is this coming from? Why am I behaving in such a way? Where is all this coming from, which is stopping me from progressing, either in socially, either professionally, or in my personal life? I keep seeing these problems coming up in my professional life, or I keep seeing these patterns being repeated in my personal life. And when we regress, we go back to the womb, and it doesn't always have to go back to the womb. Sometimes it may be a different cause, but sometimes you do go back to the womb and you realize, oh my God, it's coming from here, right? So definitely, sometimes it's the mother's emotions also that get carried forward. And sometimes
But
it is a generational issue as well. It is not only, it's been carried down from generation to generation, because we know that cells have memory. We know that, these things get passed on.
but do you think this is curable? Like if the memory is there in the child,
Yes.
and the mother is facing like difficulties, trauma, or maybe like, let's say, maybe a natural disaster like an earthquake or hurricane, like a trauma,
Yes.
you think
Yes.
this is curable?
Absolutely, it is. Absolutely, it is, Laila. Because, and I'm not just saying this for saying it. We've done cases, we've worked on cases like this, where the trauma could be anything. It could be a natural disaster like a hurricane, or you mentioned an earthquake, or it could be something which is man inflicted. Whatever it is, what really happens is when you go back, or you uncover the cause of it, or what is causing it, there's a way that the mind kind of and then what you really do is, you cannot delete the incident. You really cannot delete what happened, because that is what has happened, and we never ask you to even delete it, because that's not the right way to go about it. So what has happened, but then the emotions around that incident, once you alter that, and once you learn how to deal with it differently, that is where you start getting different results. So the incident that has happened is there. You cannot wipe it out from the past. You cannot change the past, because that has already happened. But what you can really do is, once you uncover where that is coming from, you can alter the emotions around it. You can alter the responses around it. You can add in resources over there that can help a person or individual deal with that situation better. So when we do that, and what we are doing here really is, we are working at the software level now. We are working. So what we do is, we upgrade the system. Now you also know that there are software upgrades all the time, right? You've used a computer, we use phones. Apple iPhone is a great example. So every year Apple upgrades its system. Even with computers, if you're using a software, there are always software upgrades happening. And you wouldn't want to be using the old software, right? Because the new software, the upgrades come with so much more capabilities and abilities to do things. So basically what we are doing here in a session, or when we are working with an individual, or even with the child, what we are really doing is, we are going to the mind level, the software level. We are removing the cause of whatever is causing it, or you're debugging the system. You're kind of clearing the ground, and you're installing or rebooting the system and installing a new software. So that's what it does. The sessions and even the sleep talk that I'm talking about, what it really does is, it goes to the cause of what's causing it, what's causing the distress. It's clearing it from there. It's rebooting the system, and it's putting in a new software, so that all that is taken care of. You cannot delete the past. That is not possible. But you can definitely rework around that, Laila.
But Shagufta, in this case, how do you how do you implement this process? You work with parents or with children or together? Because since you say it's a sleep talk,
Yes.
during their sleep,
Yeah.
how do you do this exactly? Can you describe, please?
So I don't work with the child at all. I don't need to meet the child at all. So for the sleep talk, I just work with the parents. So it's a session, or it's a coaching session that happens with the parents, and it's done in 3 phases. It's called the phase 1, it's called the phase 2, and the phase 3. So I don't need to work with the child at all. I teach the parent what they need to do, and they talk to the child when the child is sleeping, and it's done in a particular way. All right. So it's the parent who's directly working with the child. And when the parent works with the child, the responses are very fast. The mind of the child responds very fast, and it takes in whatever the parents are saying, very, very easily, very quickly. So the phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, how it works is, again, if I can just compare it to make it easier to understand, when you're constructing a building, right? What do you need to do first? You first need to clear the ground. You first need to level the ground. You need to clear it of all the boulders that are there, the rocks that are there. So you need to first level the ground. You need to first clear the ground. You need to first prepare the ground. So that is what the level 1 does, or the phase 1 does. Then phase 2 is putting in the foundations. Same way like constructing a building, you would clear the ground, you would prepare the ground, and then you would put in the foundations before you start building the floors, right? The foundation has to be set in correctly. Only then will it hold the floors properly. Otherwise, if you just start building the floors without clearing the ground, or without putting in the straight foundation, it's not going to hold for long. So a lot of people think it is just talking positive affirmations to the child. No, it is not. It's not just talking positive things to the child. You first need to clear the ground. You first need to put in the right foundation. That is the phase 2, which we call as the bridge. And then we start working on the specifics, which is, layer by layer or floor by floor, you are strengthening or you're laying down the things that you want, the specifics. So you work on the specific issues. So a lot of the time, phase 1 and phase 2 will take care of a lot of little issues that the child is facing. And you will start seeing changes and improvement in the child, not only in one area, but several different areas of the aspects of the life of the child. And phase 3 is where we start working on the specific issues that we need to work on. So this is how it works, Laila.
So you are tackling, let's say, from what I understood, like the subconscious, but like the subconscious is reflecting on the attitude and behavior.
Yeah.
So this is in relation with, like, if let's say I don't want to say like the young children, let's say the adolescents, they have bad habits. You think this would help to change their behavior or their state of mind?
Okay, so this is done between the ages of 0 to 13. And if it is adolescents or once they've crossed the age of 13, then SleepTalk is not the right thing to do with them because they've already crossed the age. The programming has majorly happened. All right, then it's a different thing that we need to do with adolescents. The problem with the SleepTalk, if there's one problem I can say, is that, it's done when the children are sleeping. And with adults or with teenagers, they have very erratic sleeping habits. And again, over here, now they are becoming individuals and they're becoming adults. They are no longer children. They're no longer as much influenced by their parents because they start now developing their own opinions, their own viewpoints, their own decision-making abilities getting stronger. They are becoming individuals. They're becoming adults. So the SleepTalk works best between the ages of 0 to 13 years. And it's not only working at the subconscious levels, Laila, it's also working on the unconscious levels. It's also working on the conscious levels. So remember, I mentioned that there are different levels of software. So subconscious is one level, and you also have the unconscious level, which is taking care of the body functions and immune systems. And you also have the conscious level, which is more concerned with your academics, with your focus, your concentration, your willpower, your decision-making abilities. All that is a function of the conscious mind. And that is only 10%, by the way. So it works at different levels. And phase 3 is where we target the specific. So if, for instance, if a child is having difficulty concentrating, so that is where we would work on specifically. If they have problem with some kind of a selective mutism or speech disorder or any kind of fears, that's where we need to work on the subconscious mind. But if it's got something to do with the body, it could be diabetes, it could be, even these little health issues that we have. So it can be tackled with that as well, because there we are now working on the unconscious. So different levels of the software that we are working on.
And can you control also the, let's say, the negative influence of the social media or the internet? Because what we notice these days that young children at a very young age, they are so attached to their phones. And mainly their education comes from YouTube or TikTok and these things. And, it happened to me, actually, the argument between like a child and a mother.
Yeah.
The mother is always wrong because YouTube is right. So do you think that, this is within the process? Can you help parents to overcome this dilemma?
So this is a different kind of a situation where I understand, especially now with the ongoing situation that we have where the last 1.5 year, where children are not being able to go to proper school, they're not interacting with their peers as well, they're confined to their homes, they're confined to laptops and their tablets and a lot of online activity going on over here, Laila. So if you're talking about a disagreement between a parent and a child with regards to where the child feels that the YouTube is right and the mother is wrong, all right. And again, what is the age of the child? Laila?
Frankly, any age, I noticed this
Any?
with many people.
Okay.
From age, even young children, they have phones with their hands.
Yes.
And I see they are so attached to the phone more than their attachment to their parents.
Yes.
And,
Okay.
I looked into this and I see the influence.
Yes.
So I'm thinking, is this create any contradiction between the sleep talk if you are working on a process and on their behavior?
No.
And then you have an enemy called
Yeah.
the phone,
So,
Yeah.
yeah, the phone. So, coming back to the same question, Laila, thank you for the clarification. So, yes, we do understand in the last 1.5 year where they are more confined to their phones now, they're more hooked online, they're not able to go to schools. It is their own anxiety also that they're dealing with, all right? Being locked down, especially with very young children, they are not able to understand why they cannot go out, and they're missing the interaction with their fellow mates, missing going to school. So the addiction or the habit of being online, is really stressing out some parents as well. This The sleep talk, how it can help here is, sometimes when we say things intentionally or unintentionally, the arguments that you mentioned or the disagreements that you mentioned during the daytime, the sleep talk definitely helps with that at night. So what the sleep talk is also doing is, in a way, very gently negating the influence or the disagreements that has happened during the day. It's clearing that stuff at night when you talk to the child. It definitely helps with that. It helps strengthen the bond between the parent and the child as well, because it is based on a very positive uh, premise of unconditional love. So definitely it helps with that, negating whatever has been said intentionally or unintentionally. Parents have noticed a difference between the bond that they share between the parent and the child. So that is one thing. The other thing is about here now, about more about the parent than the child, because a lot of parents now feel that they're getting too addicted to the phones, they're getting too addicted to the laptops, and the screen time is increasing a lot. But as a parent, you also need to understand that, what does the child do in this case? It's not a matter of being in control, but a matter of being understanding of what is the requirement of the situation. So you do have the what do I call it? You do have the liberty, or you do have the convenience of putting in certain passwords and locking certain sites. We do have that. So you can put that into place for very small children where they're not allowed to access certain sites. But then you cannot completely tell them that don't stay on the laptop or don't use the laptop, because they need it now. So many classes are happening online, so there is no way that you can keep them away from the use of laptops or phones or being on the internet for long. It is going to happen very, very naturally. And also, you do not want them to feel out of place, because if everybody around them is doing it, you also do not want them to feel that uh, you don't do it. So that makes them feel out of place as compared to their peers. So you also do not want that to happen. So you as a parent have to have that balance now and be in acceptance of what's happening. So a lot of parents say, oh, this is not good, or this should not be happening. But then, thinking of the situation, what is it that should be happening then, Laila? There's no way you can avoid it. There's no way that you cannot let them use be online, because it is the need of the hour now. Even our um, even our workplace has moved online, isn't it? Yeah. So many they see their parents online, because again, that's the need of the hour. You have to have your meetings online. Your meetings, your offices have moved into the home. Your offices have moved onto your laptops, onto your phones, and they are going to emulate and they are going to repeat what they see. So you cannot tell the child don't be online when you yourself are online all the time. And of course, I understand you have to be online because It's your work. But the child doesn't understand that, right?
So maybe parents will be sending emails to their children to explain their ideas and maybe to communicate, or probably I don't know if do you have any blogs or any tips that parents can follow to especially in this era that the social media is controlling everything.
So I don't really have a blog, but I do have this thing that I tell parents whenever I'm working with them, is that the first rule of parenting, Laila, is that parenting is not so much about the child first as it is about you. All right. And a lot of times the parent has to work with themselves, work around them, because their ideas around parenting, the beliefs that they hold around parenting is actually not in sync with what's happening at the times now. So parenting first starts with you, and then comes the child. So I'm not saying good parenting or great effective parenting or conscious or purposeful parenting is not required. It is. And at the same time, the first person that you start with is not the child, you start with you. All right, because if you are conscious or anxious or holding on or wanting to be the controlling parent all the time, it's not going to work. It is definitely going to create rifts between the parent and the child, definitely. Because even if you take a small child, nobody likes to be controlled. Even a small child will not like to be controlled, and the reason for that, if you can understand, and I would definitely like to bring up this point because it has come up at this point now, is that, going a little deeper now, that at the very core, Laila, we are all souls. All right. So if you go deeper, a child is a soul just like you are. So in the entire universe, before we came down into this world through our parents, we are all souls, right? And the soul is the same, whether it's a child or whether it is an adult. It's just that this soul came into this world a little later. Okay, so you become the parent, and this individual becomes your child. But at the very core, at the very essence, at the very center of who that individual is, he's a soul, just like you are a soul.
Wow, this is a different word. I would
Yes,
it's sort of like
yes.
what you're talking. It's something about like the chakras and the influence. Is this?
So this is it.
Yeah.
Once the parents understand this, and they stop seeing the child as a child, and they start seeing the child as a soul, because we know this. We know that we are not a body having a soul, but we are a soul having a human experience. All right. And that is the fact of the matter. So if you stop seeing the child as a child, as your child, all right, and you start looking at that child as an individual, as a different soul who's got his own identity, who has the right of freedom, the right of choice, just like you have. And if you start looking at your child just as an equal, okay, when I talk about equal, it's not in terms of age, it's not in terms of you being the adult and they being the child. When I talk of you seeing that child as another soul which is at the same level as you are, your perspectives or your thought processes around the situation changes, and you're better able to deal with it. But to be able to accept that, you first need to work on yourself. So the parenting is all about you first, and then comes the child.
Yeah. Yeah. It's wow. It's so
Yeah,
rich.
it is. It
Yeah.
is. And that's why I say, parenting is, it has to be purposeful parenting. And Laila, the thing is over here, um, there's a way of coming into this world, you know, and there's another thing that the children don't come to you, they come through you. Okay. They've come into this world to live their life as a soul, come to on this world, on this earth, to live their life, but they need a set of parents to come into this world, because there's a process to that. They just cannot drop from the skies. Nobody
And
can.
this is the DNA, this is like from an, I love your way of explaining it, because it's so to me it's so spiritual. But if we go to science, this is what the DNA is like. The soul is in the DNA. What you mean?
Yes.
Like,
So
yeah.
yeah, so precisely it's this, right, Laila? Parenting is not superficial. I mean, if you go deeper into it, you'll uncover so many things that helps you now change your perspective, shift your perceptions, where you're now looking at the child at a different level altogether. And once you're able to do that, things start shifting. Things start shifting for you, things start shifting for the child. And you're now working not only at the conscious level, you're also working at the energetic level with the child. So that is what I coach parents on basically. So we do a lot of things. It's not only one thing, because they have come to this world through you. They need a set of parents to come into this world. They just cannot drop down from the heavens above. So they've come through a set of parents, and then they belong to that generation, to that gene pool. They get connected energetically to the family around them as well. And sometimes, you also get affected. Energy passes down from generation to generation. And now I'm talking about more of the energetic terms. So there are a lot of things at play. There's several factors at play simultaneously, Laila. It's not this one thing alone. So you are working there. There is the mind or of the child, which is the software of the child. Then there are the external influences, the environment that the child is growing up in, uh, the the emotions of the parents, which is also energetically affecting the child in different ways. So the parent also needs to work on themselves. So there are a lot of factors when we talk about parenting. It's not only about the child, or it's not only about the parent. There are different factors that you need to take care of. And one by one you start addressing everything, and you start noticing those changes happening. Definitely does.
It's a long journey. I think it's a very long journey, and it has it's into relations with different aspects, like what I know about you, that you work also like a corporate coach. It's also reflecting on work, reflecting on different aspects in life, isn't it? It's like
It is, like you mentioned, it is a journey. And believe me, Laila, I started this work, when I was like 42, 43. Before that, I wasn't even aware of all this. And my relationship with my mother was never very healthy, because she was always the very controlling kind. Okay, even when I became an adult, and we have some parents like this, right, who want to like control. And when I started doing this work, started working on myself, and slowly I could understand why she's doing that. I understood from what space she was coming from. And like you said, it's a journey, right? It doesn't end on one day, but it's always nice to start rather than not start at all. So better to start late than never. I started at the age of 42. Okay, wherein now I have a beautiful relationship with my mother. I cleared up a lot of stuff for myself, which cleared things for her as well. And the dynamics of my relationship with my children have also changed. So when I started doing this work, my children were no longer children, they were adults. My daughter was already 18, my son was already like almost 14, 15, towards adulthood. And I wouldn't say that there were no challenges between me and my kids as well, because there were a lot of challenges going on, but I wasn't aware of any of this. And like you said, it's a journey. So it's better to start whenever you get the chance rather than not do anything at all. So I started at the age of 43, 44, where now, thankfully, my relationship with my mother is very different. My relationship with my children is very different. And it's an ongoing process. It never really stops, because, life happens, different challenges show up. Who thought of COVID 1.5, 2 years back? then lot of things, emotions come up, lot of things have changed, and you should be better prepared to be able to deal with this. And this work really helps in helping you, helping your children. So like I said, it's a firewall, right? So firewall is like the antivirus. And when I say that, it just prepares an individual better to be able to deal with these situations that come up in life quite unexpectedly. So even with small children, it really helps to build up their self-worth, self-esteem, self-confidence. So when situations like these come up, they're better able to deal with it. And the beautiful part, Laila, with the sleep talk is it is done at whatever age, but the effects last a lifetime. So it's like a programming done for life, and that's why it's called a 2-minute gift that lasts a lifetime. So yes,
This is so enlightening.
yes. And then
This is so enlightening.
coming to that thing that you just mentioned about corporate, about professional life. Um, a lot of time parents get stressed, and with what's happening in the home, the families, and they take this work stress or the family stress or the children's stress at work, where they're not able to perform well. And also vice versa. Yeah, it's not only this way. The other way is also that sometimes the work stress or what's happening at work gets carried into homes. And sometimes you're so stressed with work that you would say things to your children which you don't really mean. Oh, please go away, just leave me alone, I'm not in the mood right now, just can't you see that I'm so stressed? You say things which you don't really mean, because now what's happening is the work stress is coming home, and also sometimes the home stress gets taken to work, where you're not able to perform at work. So you need to be able to handle these things in the right way. So what really happens with the sleep talk is it helps negate those harsh words that are spoken sometimes very unintentionally. And sometimes you might even say things not harshly or with a good intention, Laila, but you really don't know how the mind is taking it. So giving my example over here, which is very relevant to what we are speaking right now. My mother, when I was young, she just told me that you should be very careful while talking to strangers. And this, of course, was said for my safety. We know that, right? We tell our young daughters, be careful when you talk to strangers. Just be careful, don't talk to anybody, and be careful around them. Don't mingle around much. And said in a good way, said with a good intention. But the thing with this subconscious is that it does not understand context, it only understands content. Unfortunately for me, this went into my programming, and where it went in so deeply that I found it difficult to talk to people, or found it difficult to converse. So I lost so many opportunities in school and college, where I just found it so difficult to talk to people. And I used to do all the hard work, but the credit used to go to somebody else because I was unable to speak. Yes, so these are the kind of things that happen which you're not even aware of so many times. Hello.
Sorry, I was disconnected. It's very, very true. It's very true that you lose the art of communications, or it's very true. I can understand. Yeah, it's actually. I think if we continue, we could talk for hours. So what I'm gonna suggest to you, to invite you to talk to our audience again in future episodes. So I want just to thank you very much for today.
Oh,
It
thank you,
was very
Amber.
insightful. And what I'm gonna need to do this, that to talk maybe in future episodes about probably the corporate coaching and the effect on families. Maybe if we go into depth, because what you just said, it needs explanation. This is in my opinion.
For sure.
And then what we call it, the sleep talk for adulthood, isn't it? Yeah.
So, so is the sleep talk process for kids? The sleep talk process is for kids between the age of 0 to 30.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then for adults, you should include us in this. You
I'm sorry.
see?
For adults, the funny part is, Laila, is a lot of times, the parents, they ask me, oh, can we use this on our partners when they are sleeping?
Yeah,
Can we
it's
sleep
true,
talk
huh?
to them? I said, no, unfortunately, no, you cannot do it. The reason is because once you're an adult, you can change your program, you can change your coding, definitely, because it's nothing but a set of coding, right? But as an adult, you need to want that change. You're an individual, okay? You're in control of yourself. You do not have control and you do not have charge over anybody else. So even between a husband and a wife, if I don't like something about my husband or my husband doesn't like anything about me, they cannot sleep talk me or make the changes unless I want it myself. The mind is going to reject it. So a lot of couples ask me this, can we use this, with them? I said, no, unfortunately, no. You cannot.
Yeah, because you cannot communicate when they are awake. This is the issue again, to
Yeah,
go back to communications, you cannot communicate when they are awake.
yeah,
But there are different processes, isn't it? So
yeah.
you can like elaborate on this maybe in future
Sure,
episodes. I
sure.
hope we will, we'll be seeing you maybe the week after, and then we can go into depths into these topics.
For
And I
sure.
want to thank you again, Shagufta. It was very insightful. Thank you very, very much.
I hope it helped. Thank you. I loved talking to you again, Laila. Absolutely a pleasure.
Thank you. And we wish you and we wish our dear audience a lovely day.
Thank you so much. Bye bye. Have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.